board members, Earl and Dave and Carolyn, along with Martha and Nancy. And I'm grateful for you speakers for taking the time tonight and to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I still would like to follow the format we had talked about earlier. Let's just keep each presentation at 20 minutes. And then if you have questions afterwards, the board members here have your email addresses and they can follow up with you directly. And with that, I'll put myself on mute. And Dave, I'm not going to introduce the speakers other than say, Dave, you're up next, because everyone's read who you are and why you're here. And they've seen the questions I'm going to ask you. So thank you, Dave.
That. So Dave Queener, I'm Dave Queener. I'm with the Clackamas County Development Agency, and we are managing the project that you have all undoubtedly witnessed on Sunnyside Road that's been under construction for, gosh, a little over a year now. What we call the Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Improvement Project. And it's one that we've been working on from a conceptual design and going into final design for several years. So it's gratifying to finally get to see all that hard work and effort by our design engineers come to fruition. The project itself is our bid award on that project was $23,795,000. So it's one of the biggest projects we've undertaken in a long time. It's completely funded with the exception of $1.5 million coming from the system development charges. The remaining funds are all urban renewal funds through our Clackamas Town Center Urban Renewal District. And this is almost, it's probably going to be our last real project that we'll do in that urban renewal district. What's going on right now with that? We are working on getting the bridge widening done. That's the biggest single element of the project, as you've all probably noticed. It's expanding the overpass at I-205 at Sunnyside to the south about 45 feet. In doing that, that's allowing us to get much more traffic flow over the overpass. And when it's all completed, you'll see dual left turns, southbound and northbound, the entire width of the overpass, as well as two through lanes going each direction. In addition, if you've ever tried to cross that on a bike or walking, it's not the most pleasant crossing there. So those, we'll have a 12-foot sidewalk on both sides. Will be a multi-use path to get people from both sides of I-205. So that was an important element there. And that I-205 overpass has consistently been a bottleneck for us from a traffic perspective. So all that traffic that you see that extends east and west on Sunnyside, it really is a result of that bottleneck there. That will continue on probably through the spring or early to mid-spring. Hopefully we'll get that wrapped up as far as the bridge goes. And you'll see railings and that type of thing get finished on that. And then late spring or early summer, you'll see the final paving that will happen, not only at the overpass, but throughout the project. We'll get the final list of paving done as soon as the weather cooperates with us on a consistent basis. The entire project will be completed probably in late September, early October, which is on schedule, which is great. As you might have noticed, we have a shutdown out in that area for any kind of construction around the town center during the holidays. Of course, this year was a little bit different with COVID, but so there wasn't as much traffic that we normally deal with. But we shut down projects out there. We don't want to create what we know is already going to be a chaotic area into more chaos with construction. So that is one thing that has actually been if there's such thing as a positive as a result of COVID, we haven't had to deal with as much traffic out on the roads as we normally do during construction. So that's been positive. It helps. It obviously makes things more safe. We have less costs associated with traffic control, that type of thing. So that's been a positive output so far on the project. We have spent about $15 million so far on the project. And we've got about 8.8 million left. So we're about 60% complete out there. The good thing is we're actually under budget right now. So an overall perspective on a $23 million project, we're under budgeted about 150,000, which is, I always like to be under budget. So I'm happy to report that we are under budget. Let's see, so the remaining parts of the project that you'll see that are getting finished up this spring, through this spring, would be the cycle tracks and multi-use paths on the south side of the road, Sunnyside Road at between 82nd and the overpass. They'll begin to work on finishing the multi-use paths on the east side of the overpass up to Stevens Road as well. We do have also some other intersections that we're working on out there as well, much more minor in perspective, that being 93rd and Sunnybrook, 97th and Sunnybrook. Those we're just kind of doing some lane modifications and some signal timing and that type of thing to help with traffic. And I guess the final thing I would mention too is we previously had no stormwater treatment to speak of in this whole section of Sunnyside. So this project is actually picking up all of the runoff now and taking it down to 84th, and we have a big water quantity and water quality structure that we're building on 84th between Sunnyside and Sunnybrook to gather all of that water, treat it, and before it discharges down into Kellogg Creek. So that's my brief summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Katie shared that there are 5 people that have joined us. So yay.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I just want to let folks know, if you do have comments or questions for Dave, you can use the raise your hand feature to let me know you'd like to speak if you're out in the audience. And that's at the bottom of your screen. It's a little button that says raise your hand. That will let me know that you would like to ask a question, and I can invite you to speak into the microphone.
Dave, I thought that you gave a very good summary of what's going on. Thank you. You also provide us updates, and you shared with us what we can look forward to in the next couple of months. So thank you so very much for taking the time to do that tonight.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just also mention too, we do have a project website that I can direct everybody to. We have regular updates there. We have the drawings there available too as well, and a place to provide comments as well as throughout the project if you have any concerns or questions. And that's just www.crcmobilityproject.org. So you can certainly go there at any time if you're looking for updates from here until the end of the project.
Katie, are there any questions for Dave?
Doesn't look like there are any questions, but we will be sure to put the contact information in chat. And that way, anyone who has any follow-up questions afterwards can access that and get in contact with Dave.
Katie, could you also in chat post the website that Dave just mentioned?
Yes. Oh, it does look like we have a question. Hold on just a second. Renee.
Hi, thank you. So the chat is disabled right now when I try to post a message in there. So I don't know if that's something you can allow.
I can fix that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I will go ahead and fix that, and I will post Dave's link in chat as well.
Renee, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Much appreciated. And Renee, I also just got your text with the same question, so thank you.
Yes.
Well, Dave, thank you so much then.
You bet. Happy to do it.
So next up is Chief Anderson. Scott is Chief of Police for the City of Happy Valley, whose patrol area includes our CPO. I've asked Chief Anderson to keep his conversation at a high level. He has offered to share reports, and we will have them for future meetings. Chief, we have had representatives from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office attend our meetings in the past. Can you explain why the Happy Valley Police Department is with us tonight? What's the relationship between the Sheriff's Office and the City of Happy Valley? And my 3 other questions, are there any crime trends you're currently following? what's your office doing to help reduce them, and how can we as citizens help? And Chief, before I get started, for those of you who just joined us, what we're doing is we have 3 more presenters tonight. Each of them will have about 20 minutes to present, and including question and answers. And if after that time, if you have additional questions that they've not been able to get to, their contact information will be placed in chat, and they have agreed to answer any questions that you might have. Chief, with that, off to you. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And good evening, everyone. It's encouraging to see you all here. Yeah, it's inspiring to me. This is what makes Clackamas County great. And this is how you make improvements in your local government and where you live is by getting involved like you guys are. So I'm happy to be here. It's my honor. I have to start with a question. Mr. Culbertson, are you in jail? And what did you do? He's muted.
Earl, you're on mute.
I mean, normally you press the space bar, it unmutes, and it didn't this time.
We could use that jail bed. So if you're not using it, clear out because we could use it. And then the other thing is right before I came in, I grabbed a soda pop and my wife said everyone was going to think I was drinking beer. So I'm just showing you this is soda pop. It's not beer. Okay. So here we go. Thanks again, Mike. Yeah. So why is Happy Valley here tonight? Happy Valley contracts police services through the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. You guys in your neighborhood, the area of your CPO is patrolled by Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. However, since Happy Valley contracts through the county, I am a Clackamas County Deputy Sheriff. I'm actually a captain with the Sheriff's Office, but I'm assigned to Happy Valley as part of the contract. So I work with the city of Happy Valley to assess their staffing, their policing needs, and come up with a plan to staff a police department. And once folks are assigned there, they're dedicated there. And the city of Happy Valley has dedicated police officers. They're all deputy sheriffs employed by the sheriff's office. I've been a lieutenant for a long time, and I've had my hand in a few different CPOs. And when I came to Happy Valley and got my new role, I just didn't think it was fair to keep handing you guys off. We're really aiming to get some consistency with all CPOs. You all have a pretty active CPO as far as our county goes, which is great. And if you can get to know a face and remember a name and have a contact, then we're all better served for it. So even though I'm working in Happy Valley, I'm an employee of the sheriff's office and still committed to you guys. The other thing is you're adjacent to Happy Valley and there's so much overlap. Several of you probably work in Happy Valley or have had kids to go to school in Happy Valley, and certainly criminals don't pay attention to the line between Happy Valley and Claquemas. So there's a lot of overlap. I think I also answered what the relationship is with between Happy Valley and the sheriff's office. So crime trends. This has been a really weird year to collect statistics, as you can imagine. Some crimes and some police activity are up and some are way down based on, COVID restrictions and patterns of people and protests. That was a busy couple months for us at the beginning of the summer in May when all the protests were happening all around. We had a couple in Clackamas County, a large one that started at the town center, and we had a large one that made national news in Happy Valley as well. And then, of course, the forest fires were labor intensive and time intensive, and we were all dedicated to that for several months, as was Philip. I miss your daily briefings at the EOC, Philip.
Welcome back anytime, Chief.
Thank you. I'll be back. So crimes, it's not a normal year. Some crimes are up and some are down. But recently, as we start to look at the year as a whole, last year, we see some trends with property crimes. And I don't think that it's necessarily related to the pandemic as much as some the political environment in our region. And, to be frank, Portland and Multnomah County, the decisions they make up there have an impact on social issues and crime and other things in areas around Portland. And Portland several years ago started taking a real lenient stance on several crimes, and they don't take very many folks to jail. And they elected a district attorney that has a very lenient position on crime. I'm not bad mouthing him. That's what he ran on. That was his election platform, and they elected him. So that's what they do in Portland, and that's fine. But how we see it affects us is two ways. There's a lot of criminals on the street that would have been in jail in years past. So there's more folks out there potentially committing crimes. And because some of their lenient policies, criminals are, this is my professional opinion, getting more brazen. We contact people all the time that are surprised that we're taking them to jail because they don't, whatever activity they're involved in, stealing cars or whatever, they've been trained that you don't go to jail for that. And when they run from the police, they don't expect us to chase them. And when we chase them, they are surprised we chased them. So I believe some political decisions to the north of us have led to more criminals on the street and a more brazen brand of criminal. And so our property crimes in our region have gone up. It's not a catastrophe. It's not super dramatic, but if you ask me about trends, and that's one thing we're really trying to keep our eye on. So what are we doing to address that? Well, several things. As you know, we just had an election for sheriff. We have a new sheriff. I am part of her executive team as a captain with the sheriff's office, and we just had a retreat last week with the entire executive team to do some strategic planning for the new administration. And across the board, our executive team rated as our first priority holding offenders accountable. We have always been a county of law and order, and we sort of have that reputation. And I think we have a lower crime rate than other counties around us because of that. And this administration remains committed to that. Not only that, but we continue to work with our legislators as laws that may seem counterintuitive to some people, like legalizing or decriminalizing drugs, happen, and there are several criminal justice reform measures floating around. So we work with our legislators to navigate those waters and try and figure out the best way to keep our citizens safe while the laws are changing around us. We also have an excellent relationship with our district attorney. And I can't speak for our district attorney, but I know I can say, and if he was sitting here, I would say this, he's not as lenient on crime as the district attorney in Multnomah County. So we will continue prosecuting criminals in Clackamas County. So we have some advantages. We're going to suffer bleed over, but we recognize that the trend, and we're doing what we can to address it. On top of all that, it's a challenging time to be a law enforcement officer in the country. Morale can suffer during times like this, and recruiting can be difficult. And so we are really stepping on the gas pedal to recruit as best we can, and really trying to recruit as diverse of a candidate pool as we can. And then we're also working on retaining the good folks that we have working for us now. So that's another focus that we're working on. There will be, this is not a campaign speech or anything, but there will be, the sheriff's office is up for a levy. They have a public safety levy, and it'll be coming due this year. And we are exploring an increase to the levy. I don't know that will happen, but to mitigate some of these trends that we're seeing and to keep up with all of the new demands being placed on police officers in this current climate, they're considering that. So that may be an opportunity if those are your values, to increase the staffing at your sheriff's office. In years past, when we've done polling for levies, we're totally blessed and totally lucky, and I don't take it for granted, but we have a really high level of support from citizens in the county. I think it's as high as 80% of county citizens support the sheriff's office and the mission of the sheriff's office. So we are on good ground. We don't take that for granted. We don't want to lose it. And yeah, enough said on that. The last question that Mike had for me was, how can you all help? And I gotta say, I said it in my introductory remarks, and I don't mean it to be corny at all, but it is inspiring for me to see groups like this that just care enough about their community to get together, and however you go forward and help, your involvement is helping. Us knowing that there's folks that care is one way of holding us accountable, right? I'm here answering your questions, and we truly we are police for you, right? We police the community, and we're part of the community. So groups like this help. One thing, a more practical thing, is we can't police what we don't know about. And I run into folks all the time that don't want to bother us, so they don't call us about criminal activity. And I appreciate that sentiment, but it's not helpful. We need to know what crime is happening, where it's happening, and what information you have that might help us crack it. And it doesn't have to be crime either. Part of our charge is public safety, and that includes livability measures. So when you have community problems that you think the sheriff's office could help with, we don't mind those calls. We of course prioritize them with other criminal activity happening, and you might not get a 911 level response time, but we need to know what's happening. And a perfect example is, oftentimes people will come out and their mailbox will be damaged, and they don't know if they had any mail stolen, or they don't think they had mail stolen, so they don't report it. But oftentimes a mailbox is damaged from somebody trying to steal mail, and maybe they stole mail from 6 or 7 of their neighbors who don't know it yet. So if we can get that jump on that crime and start investigating it, it gives us an advantage, and it helps us track what's happening and what crime trends are occurring in the county, at present time. I think that answers the questions that Mike sent me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have. Yes, ma'am, Miss Masterson.
Hi. So I posted 2 questions on the chat, but I thought I'd go ahead and ask them personally. So we had a neighbor whose car got stolen from the street in front of their house, I think Saturday morning. And I guess the question is, as a neighbor, is that something we could report, or is that something we should just wait for the owner to report?
Well, if you know it's stolen, you can report it, so we can be on the lookout for that car and try and contact the owner. You won't be able to report it because you didn't own it, so you won't be able to make a crime report.
Right.
But you can report the incident to us, and that gives us a head start if you know of it before the owner.
Right.
Because that guy might be driving out of the county, as we speak. If we wait for the owner, we might miss our chance to stop him.
Okay. Because we live over off of 122nd and Mather Road.
Mm-hmm.
The other question was, same way, is if we have a package stolen from our front door or front porch area, is that something that is worth reporting?
Yes,
Even if it's
100%. We track all of those. We work with the U.S. Postal Service and with the major deliverers, FedEx and UPS, and track all those, look for patterns. And if we see a spike in those, there are proactive steps we can take. So if we don't know what's happening, we won't take those proactive steps. And we've done stings as recently as this Christmas, where we put dummy packages on people's porches and try and catch package thieves when there's a spike in that crime. So yeah, for sure.
And we call it the non-emergency number, is that correct?
Yeah, if it's happening in progress, you can call 911. If you see someone do it, call 911.
Mhm.
And if you're just reporting it after the fact, then non-emergency is
Right.
appropriate.
What is
Mr. Culbertson has a question.
what is a non-emergency number? What is your non-emergency phone number?
503-655-8211.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I see on Nextdoor and Happy Valley Moms Facebook posts, you know, a rash of people complaining about packages getting stolen. Cars, not so much, but this seems like this is the first incident in my neighborhood. So
Could
at
be
least I'm aware of.
most of those social media feeds, crime gets grossly exaggerated. So I just caution you to take that with a grain of salt. Because a lot of people hear the same event, but through different sources, and they all report it. And then on social media, it sounds like 3 events. So when we track those down, they're almost always over reported, but it is valuable information.
Mhm. Is that the same thing? Like my husband got duped by some person who posed as someone from Iran and needing money and having to get to Florida within 24 hours or 48 hours to get passport stuff or whatever, and asked for cash, which he gave in exchange for crap jewelry. You know, we didn't report it, but I guess that's something that might have been useful, because who knows if this couple was doing it elsewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And go ahead, and that's not a crime we'd investigate because it's an international crime, but we will refer you to the FBI's, they have internet fraud and crimes division
Oh,
that
okay.
tracks those and helps you with those.
Okay, thank
Andy, are
you.
there any other questions in chat?
Thank you, everyone.
Those were
It's nice
those
to
were
see you.
the only chat questions, and it doesn't look like we have any hands raised. So I think we're doing good.
Yes, Chief, 2 quick things for you. There were news reports a few months ago about COVID running through the department. How has that impacted your team? And the other element for those that are here tonight is that the chief has agreed to be a regular feature at our meetings. So we meet 3 times a year, and he's agreed to be at all 3 of the meetings.
Yeah, COVID has been, we've been pretty lucky. We've had a couple spurts where we've had to quarantine folks, but we've been prepared for it, and we've been limiting our training and other distractions from work, you know, ramping up our staffing as much as we can, getting rid of other discretionary time draws. So it hasn't negatively impacted our service yet. It has caused, I think, fatigue among the troops because we're all, you know, working extra hours. But yeah, thanks for asking. We're surviving it like everyone. Oh, and yeah, and anytime I come, I offered to bring, you know, statistical reports if anybody's interested in a more statistical snapshot of crime in your CPO.
Well, if there are no more questions, Chief, thank you so very much for taking the time tonight, and I hope that you enjoy your soft drink.
Yeah, thank you.
So next up is the North Clackamas Park and Recreation District, and we're lucky to have Laura Zentner, who's Director of Business and Community Services, and Candy Ho, Manager of Recreation Services, with us tonight. And they're going to update us about what's going on in the district. I've talked with Laura and Candy earlier today, and I've asked them to talk maybe a little bit about what's happening with the Park District since City of Happy Valley left. How's our area impacted by that change? And what are the opportunities that are available for citizen involvement? And with that, I'll hand it off to the 2 of you, and thank you both so much for being here.
And thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. So as mentioned, my name is Laura Zentner, and I'm the Director of Business and Community Services. And with me is Candy Ho, and she's the Acting Director of North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. So thank you for your questions. What we've tried to do is we've tried to incorporate the 3 questions into our PowerPoint. However, please feel free to ask questions at the end of the presentation if you feel we didn't adequately answer your questions, or if you have any additional questions beyond what was asked. So the first update that I would like to provide is around the Ncprd director recruitment. As some of you may know, Scott Archer was our former director. He was the director for about 4.5 years for North Clackamas Parks and Rec District. He recently left to become the city administrator for the city of Canby. So we were very sad to see him go. He was an amazing director. But with his departure, we have a vacancy that we do need to fill. So our plan is to begin the recruitment this month, and we're going to be doing a nationwide search. Our recruitments usually last between 2 and 3 months, depending on how many interviews we have. And so we anticipate that we'll have a new director on board probably in May or June of this year. So it'll be a little bit of ways out, but we want to be very thorough and ensure that we get a very high quality director. So that's the update for the director. The next area I'd like to share with you is an update on the city of Happy Valley withdrawal from the district. There's a lot of history here, which I'm not going to go into, obviously, other than to say that there were multiple lawsuits related to the withdrawal, and ultimately the sentiment of both parties was that it would be best to allow the city of Happy Valley to withdraw and for both of us to part ways, which we did. So we had the official withdrawal from the district July 1st of 2020, and we ended up with a settlement agreement between the two parties, and I'll just go through the key outcomes of that. The first is that we made a significant payment to the city of Happy Valley for STCs that were generated by the growth and development that actually occurred within the city limits of the city of Happy Valley. And they were STCs, Parks District STCs, that where we transferred the funds. The second area is that we agreed to transfer 5 parks, and they're listed here on the screen, to the city of Happy Valley. There were select parcels from Mount Talbot Nature Park, the Hidden Falls Nature Park, Ashley Meadows, Southern Lights, and Village Green. So those are within the city, so it made sense that we would transfer those to the city of Happy Valley. And then probably the most important thing that in the settlement agreement that we got was that we locked in the boundary for the district. And that was absolutely critical to ensure that we could have a sustainable financial future for the district. So what that means is as Happy Valley annexes properties, say that they're within the district, they stay in the district. So they would be in the city of Happy Valley and in the district, but they will remain part of the Parks District. So the boundary, as you see in front of you right now, it will remain the boundary for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. And again, that's absolutely critical for the financial future of the district.
Laura, does that mean that if the city of Happy Valley grows, that, well, let me ask the question differently. If the city of Happy Valley grows, what happens to the Parks District size?
It stays as is. So there may be in the future, as they annex, if they annex a piece of property that is currently within the district, it stays in the district, and it's also in the Happy Valley. So you could have people who are in the city and in the district in the future.
Thank you.
So moving forward, I want to just some key points about what it means for Happy Valley to be out of the district is that we remain still the second largest parks district in the state of Oregon with over 105,000 residents. We district residents still have access to all the same great services and programs, including discounted rates and priority registration. We have been and will continue to focus on new projects and exciting opportunities that benefit all of our district residents. And we will do our very best to continue to provide exceptional service to, again, our 105,000 residents. So that's the update on the Happy Valley situation. The next topic is the District Advisory Committee update. And I just need to provide a little bit of background here. just so you get some context. So there's been discussion over the years in the unincorporated community regarding whether there was equal representation on the district advisory, used to be called the district advisory board, throughout the district. And so based on that feedback, a decision was made to update the Ncprd district advisory board bylaws to ensure that there was equal representation throughout the district. And those bylaws have now been updated, which have resulted in some changes in our district advisory committee. So on the screen, it just basically says what the role is, and it's to advise the Ncprd Board of Directors on the acquisition, design, planning, and the development of parks and recreation facilities, and on programs, maintenance, and operations of the district. Next slide. So what's new with the District Advisory Committee? Well, so the first thing is it used to be called the District Advisory Board. So we had a name change. It's District Advisory Committee. It is now an 11-member committee. We have 5 sub areas. So we've redrawn the boundaries within the district to have 5 sub areas with equal population distribution. So it's a little over 20,000, I believe, in each of the 5 areas. The Ncprd Board of Directors, which is actually the Board of County Commissioners, will not have a seat on the District Advisory Committee. Previously, they did have one of the Board of Directors was a voting member on the District Advisory Board, and that is no longer the case. So the District Advisory Committee members for the 4 unincorporated sub areas will be recruited and selected by the community, and this is really important. There is a community-led task force that's comprised of 6 residents. It's been formed to develop a proposal for the recruitment process and appointment of the District Advisory Committee members. Next slide, please. So this is a graphic representation of the sub areas, and you can see in green, that's the city of Milwaukee. And city of Milwaukee recommends 2 members. And then we have the 8 additional members, and there's 2 for each of the sub areas. So 2 for the pink, 2 for the blue area, 2 for the yellow, and 2 for the brownish color. So for a total of 8, and that's all unincorporated area. And then we have 1 at-large position that represents the community centers in the district. So that's the update on what's happening with the District Advisory Committee. Now I'm going to turn it over to Candy, and she'll talk about the projects and operations and give you an update on all of those. And there's a lot of exciting things happening in the district. So I think you'll be really pleased to see this portion of the update.
This past October, we opened a park and trail at Boardman Wetlands. This 5.8 acre nature park was a joint project with Oak Lodge Water Services District with funds from Metro and Oregon Parks and Recreation Department. This park features an outdoor learning area. It's North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District's first nature play area, as you see in the photo. There's benches and picnic tables, a restored creek and wetland habitat, and replace the sanitary sewer line under the wetland. It's a beautiful new district amenity. And this is just right off McLaughlin. We completed a master plan to transform the Concord property in Oak Grove into a district-wide facility, including a community center, park, and library. This was accomplished with a robust public outreach effort, including community task force, focus groups, open houses, and public opinion survey. That helped craft the shared vision for the site. You can see design layout and amenities on our website. Construction is tentatively scheduled for 2022, contingent on funding. Over 1,000 citizens provided input for this master plan. A final design was completed for the district-wide Milwaukee Bay Park project. This joint project with the city of Milwaukee is to develop this approximately 3.5-acre waterfront Milwaukee Bay Park. This park feature includes children's play area, interactive water feature, social gathering area, art, pedestrian pathways, and more. Construction is tentatively scheduled for 2022, contingent on funding. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but this here area here is to be set up kind of like an amphitheater. Up here is kind of a covered area with picnicking. Behind this tree that will be preserved is a bathroom, nature, children's play area, water features, and then here's restored natural areas in the area. This past year, in response to the pandemic, our staff has updated protocols to enhance safety following CDC, OHA, and other guidance for programming and maintenance. Virtual programming was created for adults and youth. A virtual recreation center was created on our website, and our parks and trails have an increased use by visitors enjoying the outdoors. Our Meals on Wheels program has experienced a 39% increase due to homebound sheltering in place. We are currently offering adult virtual fitness, mind and body, language, writing classes, and youth sports, science, horseback riding, dance, and fitness programming. We are excited to be offering Inclusion Bingo Boogie for individuals with disabilities or special needs. This program offers virtual bingo games followed by themed dance that participants learn from the instructor. I guess I jumped way ahead. This last October, we offered a drive-through Boo Bash to allow our residents to view Halloween decor themes safely from the safety of the seat of their car. It was great to see so many residents, even from a distance, with over 1,000 people attending. Our famous Thanksgiving dinner fundraiser for our Meals on Wheels program was offered with pre-registration and drive-through pickup dinner to go. We were pleased to serve 200 additional meals in addition to our 260 Meals on Wheels delivery for Thanksgiving dinner. In December, we held winter celebrations and visits with Santa virtually for over 290 youth attendees. This friendly elf interacted with families while they waited for their turn to visit with Santa. Participants drove through and picked up their supplies for winter celebration from Frosty the Snowman and Santa the day prior to the event. Our spring resident registration begins on February 16th for our virtual and select in-person programs. Our drive-through Chinese celebration meal pickup and goodie bag will be held on February 19th, and our annual March for Meals campaign is coming up next month. The fundraiser is crucial to our Meals on Wheels program, and Bob's Red Mill has agreed to match up to $10,000 in donations once again. We want you to be involved and engaged in the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. You are welcome to apply to be on the District Advisory Committee or recommend a District Advisory Committee member for your sub-area. You are always welcome to attend future District Advisory Committee meetings, volunteer for future events and services, and participate in public engagement opportunities. If you haven't, please sign up for our newsletter, The Outside Insider, that is distributed by email. And our website is the best place for updates about the district. And that concludes our presentation. If you have additional questions, we'd be happy to try to answer those.
Candy and Laura, thank you both so very, very much. Carolyn, your hand's been raised for a while. Do you have a question?
I do, yes. Laura talked about STCs or FTCs? I couldn't quite hear it exactly. What is
STC.
that?
System development charges. They are fees that are paid by builders when they build a house, and they go towards parks, needs for parks. There's water SDCs, there's sewer SDCs, and it's to pay for the infrastructure that's needed when a new community is built, basically.
Thank you.
Candy, could you post in chat or get to Katie the link that someone would go to sign up for your newsletter?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's on our website. It's ncprd.com.
So just go to the website and you'll find a link there to sign up for the newsletter. Okay. Katie, are there any questions in chat?
Let's see, how do I raise my hand?
Oh, David, yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, how does the parks work with the schools? Because we don't have any parks in our immediate area. We usually go down to the school and use the playground there. It used to be, it seems like the Parks Department had stuff going on at the local school and the gym and things like that at Mount Scott.
We actually have an agreement that we can schedule the Mount Scott gym. And so that is a gym that we have access to. Unfortunately, this year we have no access to any school buildings or properties, just like everyone else. And we've started some programming. We had summer camps and those types of things and everything on our own properties. We've started talking with the schools. We'll start outdoors, but hopefully in the future. We have a robust basketball program that we utilize many school gyms and try to offer it near people's homes and keep the kids in their own schools. But we are meeting regularly with the school district for different types of programming and activities. And as you're probably aware, we did recently acquire 3 of the older schools. We have a Wichita Center, Clackamas Elementary, and then the Old Concord School building that we will be looking at future possibilities for community center and use.
We have a question with our audience, Renee King.
Hi, Candy and Laura. How are you?
Hi, Renee.
Hi. Are there currently representatives from this district on the district advisory committee, or are those both open seats?
So the district advisory committee is completely new. So our district advisory board was disbanded when it completed its last task. And so we will be recruiting and it'll be all new.
Okay, thank you.
Renee, I'm glad you figured out chat and video and audio. So thank you for continuing to hang with us tonight. Katie, anything else?
I was going to say, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to email us. You can send things to our general Ncprd email or contact Laura and I directly at any time.
I have pasted Candy and Laura's emails in chat as well as the district website. Oh, it looks like Grover has a question. Hold on just a second before we move on. Grover?
Hi, Grover. I guess he's on there.
Grover, are you there? It says you're there.
And Katie, Mary's got her hand raised as well.
Okay. Grover, we're going to move on to Mary and we'll come back to you.
Thank you. So I guess I have a question. I submitted an application to be considered for the, I think, unincorporated district advisory board committee position. And that was back in, I don't know, was that November?
August?
October? I don't remember when. Anyway, I guess, do I need to reapply or?
So
you can go ahead and get Candy.
From my understanding, we have a community task force that is establishing the process for how we elect our district advisory committee members. And so that process is just being completed. And so once that's finalized, we will be contacting everybody that applied for the DAB so that you'll understand that process so that you can still be involved, and highly encourage you to continue and apply for the DAC. It probably won't be a complete separate application because that part of the process with the county is pretty similar or the same. But you'll have more information in the next month.
So Candy, Mary's already applied. What you're saying is thank you, but no thank you when here's a new opportunity and reapply?
It is, originally we were applying for the DAB, which now is a DAC. So the process is going to be a little different. And so we will be sharing that process and encouraging everyone to continue with this new process.
So Mary's application is carrying forward to the new process.
Yes.
There's nothing Mary needs to do.
Nope. And she will be given the information as well as, you know, your CPO. We hope that you'll be able to share all that information. It looks like Grover has a hand raised again.
Grover, are you there? I think Grover might be having some technical difficulties with his mic.
Mary, did that take care of the question that you had about your application?
Grover, if you email me, I'll read your question, or if you put it in chat, whichever you prefer. I'm happy to field your question.
I think so. So my understanding again is just, I just wait until more notification comes out or something. That's all I wanted to know.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for volunteering, Mary.
Yeah, I think I know Candy from way back when.
And eventually we'll open that pool again. I guess we'll see what Philip has to say.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions.
Can Grover give up?
Well, let me see if he's emailed me. I offered him that opportunity or that option. I worry that he might be having problems with his audio. I don't see that I've gotten an email yet, but if we do get something, I'll make sure to get Grover's questions answered. Oh, he's okay. Let's give him one more chance to see if his mic is fixed. Grover, are you there? Grover? Yeah, we can't hear him. Okay. I'm sorry, Grover, we're having trouble hearing you. Okay. I will try to reach out to Grover offline to see if we can get his question, and let's move on.
Okay. Well, Laura and Candy, thank you both so much for your time and the presentation. And it was very interesting. The different things that are going on. And Laura, the background that you offered in the history was very helpful to our understanding of what's happening. So thank you. And Candy, your insights and the things that are coming up for us, very exciting, very exciting. So thank you both so very much. You're welcome to stay if you wish. If you'd like to do other things, your choice.
Thanks so much for having us, and we are happy to come to, if it's every 3 months you have a meeting.
The next one, oddly enough, if you'd like to put on your calendar, is not until June, and it's the first Monday in June, so June 7th or October 4th.
Okay, we'll make sure we mark that down.
So June 7th and October 4th.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Philip, did you get the other work done you hope to get done?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. Well, next up is we're fortunate to have Philip as director of the Clackamas County Public Health director of Clackamas County Public Health. And oddly enough, we've asked him to speak tonight on COVID. And some of the questions that the board came up with for Philip, what is the role of Clackamas County in the distribution of the vaccine? What can we do to ensure we know when it's our turn to get a vaccine? And how will we know where to go to get it? And then finally, if someone in our household is at high risk, can everyone in the household get the vaccine at the same time? Philip, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the conversation this morning, so I'm prepared. I do have a slideshow just like Laura and Candy, but mine aren't nearly as beautiful as theirs were. They took it to a whole new level. I need your graphic designer. But can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
So yes, I will certainly assure that the questions the board has are addressed, and I know top of mind right now is the vaccine distribution work that is a lot of focus and resources going into that. Clackamas County right now, as we stand today, we have 12,562 cases of COVID-19, and we've sadly have 145 deaths. Compared to Oregon statewide, we've had 143,373 and 1,958 deaths. So Clackamas County in general has, I would say the vast majority of our residents and community members have done a terrific job of following the public health precaution and guidance. And this visual here, just of our case counts, this is every single week since we had the first case in Oregon back in March of 2020. And you can just see over time how low they were, how towards the fall when folks started to go indoors, when COVID fatigue is certainly very real. We saw that locally, we saw that across the state, we saw that across the nation. Now I'm happy to see that the cases are trending downward. So we had a good month in January. This is really important in terms of the priority of getting our schools back to in-person learning, which we're spending a lot of time providing. Our Clackamas County has over 150 private and public schools, all required to submit reopening plans. Public health staff in the county have reviewed all those plans, providing a lot of technical assistance to our school partners so that they can reopen safely for in-person instruction. And then the restrictions on business. So that's obviously been a big deal with restaurants currently not able to provide in-room dining, and then also a lot of indoor entertainment and other things that we enjoy as part of our regular lives are currently not able to operate, but we are getting much closer to getting out of that extreme risk level. I'm hopeful that in the next couple of weeks that we'll see a change there. As you would expect with the cases going down, we're also seeing hospitalizations go down statewide. That's one of the key indicators and reasons that we put these restrictions in place, because we want to assure that if someone does get severely ill from COVID, that they have a hospital bed available to them and that they have the care that they need in order to survive. This is data that we receive every single day from our hospital partners. There's a state database that is used to look at the bed capacity in our tri-county. So Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties, the hospitals across the region. And just to familiarize yourself with this, the blue is the total number of beds available each day. The gray shows you how many beds are currently in use, so quite a bit. And these are adult ICU beds, so those severely ill patients that need a lot of advanced care. And in yellow is how much beds are currently available at any given time. They pull this data at noon on the dot, so this just gives you a nice little snapshot of what it looks like. In the spring, this was in the teens, in the 20s, so we're feeling really good. When we see anything above 50, we feel really good about that. And often it's not actually the physical rooms, it's not the equipment, it's really about the staffing. just like everywhere, folks have been impacted by COVID, having to quarantine, just a shortage. Of course, across the whole globe, there's a shortage of healthcare personnel. It's not as though we can recruit traveling nurses to come and work our hospital beds because the demand is everywhere across the world. So that's been one of the biggest challenges around hospital capacity that we've had to work through continuously over the past many, many months. And so now I'll spend the majority of my talk just updating you on vaccine distribution and diving into that work. One of the questions Mike had for me was just, what is our role at public health around this effort? And we have a whole lot. We are meeting right now 7 days a week with our hospital partners because the majority of the vaccine is going to the hospitals in our region. OHSU, Kaiser, Providence, and Legacy have all sort of combined their efforts and are treating themselves as one organization, which is terrific. It makes it a lot easier to lift this effort to have that where we're together as a team. And in a lot of our plans, we were anticipating 100,000 first doses every week coming into Oregon. Right now, that's 30,000 doses coming into Oregon, and only half of that comes to the Tri-County. So 15,000 first doses every week are coming in. So this process is taking quite a while. It's a lot slower than we want. Eligibility continues to increase at the same time. So something we continue to tell the community is, while you may be eligible for the vaccine, that doesn't mean you're going to get an appointment, sadly, right away. And I'll share you more information on that a little bit. We have in Clackamas County over 30 vaccine enroll providers. So that's clinics, pharmacies, fire agencies. In your area, there's a whole lot. So once we get at a point where manufacturing is really flowing and vaccine is coming in, they'll receive allocations directly from the manufacturers. And our role is to really help make sure that their staff are trained on how to administer the vaccine, that they've got the standing orders and policies in place. You know, this is a tricky process where you've got a vial with 10 doses and to get the schedules in, and sometimes you end up with an 11 dose. There's challenges where, you know, someone might no-show. So having good practices and processes in place are important. Also, this vaccine requires you, after you get a shot, that you need to be monitored for at least 15 minutes. So that's why, you know, we do a lot of in public health planning around the big high school. You take over a high school gym and you do these big events, but with the public health precautions around physical distancing and masking, along with just the spacing you need in order to do this well. This is very much an appointment scheduled process, so that way there is that good flow and structure in place in order to support those efforts. We also at Public Health have our own clinics that we've stood up. So we have a couple in Oregon City, we have one in the Milwaukee area, and then we have one up in the mountain, up in Sandy area, and then in Malala, where we have actual clinics, some of them school-based clinics, some of them clinics that we've partnered with another organization to be able to run with our own staff and volunteers for a lot of those hard to reach populations where the majority of folks may not be able to go into Portland to the convention center. The Oregon Convention Center is the primary place where the hospitals are providing vaccine. The other option that the hospitals have is the airport, where there's a drive-through over there. So we have our own local efforts that we're doing. We had some really good drive-through events we've done with fire agencies, such as Claquemas Fire, for phase 1 eligible folks. And then we're in a situation where there's a ton of demand for this vaccine, and the interest is wonderful. That's what we want to see, is folks want to have this vaccine. We think that that's one of the most important tools that are going to get us moving forward and out of this pandemic. But we also recognize that we'll be in a place where that's, you know, several months from now, that's going to shift, and we're going to have a lot of the demand is going to be met with the supplies, and we're going to be at a point where we're really, you know, in Oregon in general is pretty vaccine hesitant. We got a lot of the population who has concerns about the vaccine, its safety, and there's a lot of work that we need to do around communications, around building public trust, engaging the community in order to gain support for this vaccine as we move into the general population. So here's some nice little, so if you love the data, this is where we're at in Clackamas County. Over 28,000 folks have received at least their first dose, which is a great start. We have been focused on phase 1A, so we really do follow the state guidance. This is our frontline healthcare workers, our first responders. It's all the staff and the residents at all of our long-term care facilities, and there's over 50 of those in Clackamas County. I'm really proud of our staff that we've been able to work with all the long-term care facilities in our county to get them enrolled in the federal pharmacy program, where mobile teams actually go on site to their facility and vaccinate all their folks with the 2 doses. And those are either near completion of their second dose for all those facilities, or they're done. So that's been great work in the month of December and January that we accomplished. We've been meeting with school district partners and private schools and childcare providers to prepare for now. As of last week, educators are now eligible for the vaccine. And then next week, older adults are eligible, starting with 80-year-olds and up. But as I said, the vaccine is super, super limited. So patience, patience, patience. That is the key message. Here is the group, in case you're curious. Phase 1A, it's a really large group in Oregon. They estimate around, they initially said 300,000. Now it's looking like it's more like 400 up to 500,000. There's a lot of folks that meet these definitions. We've done a lot of work with the individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities, getting them access, doing a lot of our local work there. We have home visiting nurses that have actually gone out to adult foster homes. And one of your questions that the board has was around caregivers. So yeah, when we go to someone's home and we vaccinate the individual, we also take care of the caregiver. So which we see as the family members. We look at that pretty broadly. We have over 900 first responders in Clackamas County. You can just think about your own local community in the North Clackamas area. I mean, how many dental offices do you have? Chiropractors, medical clinics do you have? There's a lot of folks to reach and get vaccinated. And now we've added educators, which is 105,000 statewide. We have just public educators. We have 9,800 in Clackamas County. So we had to develop our own system here in the Tri-County for how to do that based on the allocations coming in. So last week we focused on the youngest, the teachers that teach the youngest grades, pre-K to first grade, the staff that are already currently providing in-person instruction for both school-age children, but also for childcare. And then those core staff, those essential core workers to make school happen, the bus drivers, the food workers, the custodial staff. This week, we're focused on getting the rest of the elementary school population taken care of, and then all the rest of the child care providers, recognizing that by having child care available, that's a big economic drive. If folks are gonna go back to work, they have to have somewhere for their little ones to go. So helping get the rest of the child care providers vaccinated so that they can start providing in-person services. Next week, we move to middle school, and the week following is the high school staff. And keep in mind, you do this once, and then the second dose is 21 or 28 days later. And then older adults start February 8th, next Monday. There's been a whole lot of questions this week. We've got a lot of phone calls from older adults wanting to know how they get scheduled. The way the system's been designed is you cannot schedule your appointment until you're actually eligible. So we have been, folks call the county, we collect that information, we screen them for eligibility, and then we're going to be calling folks and getting them connected to appointments next week. We also know that, again, demand is with 15,000 doses in the Tri-County, and in Clackamas County alone, close to 10,000 folks that are 80 or older. This is going to be several weeks to go through this process. We also recognize that the convention center and going up to the airport is not very accessible or going to work very well for that population either. So we are advocating at the state level to get more doses locally that we can provide, either through some of the work that we do where we go out to communities and residents, or at our local communities, at our clinics. But a small portion of these folks are going to be able to get appointments through the offerings that the hospitals have. And then in terms of who's next after older adults, what's the plan? That's the role of the state's Vaccine Advisory Committee, which has been meeting regularly since December. A group of over 20 folks that have this tough job of making these recommendations to the governor. But they have focused in. Last Thursday, they had a meeting where they really got clarity around the next populations that will be eligible. So it'll be people who are younger, age 16 to 64, that have underlying health conditions, pre-existing conditions, frontline essential workers, which they're going to have to now work on the definition of what that means, very detailed. People in custody, and then people in low income housing. And once those are completed, then it will be open to the general population. So I think this is important to note that this is just my mantra because I feel like I just have to say it. There's going to be 1.2 million people eligible to receive the vaccine by the end of February, and we only have enough doses at this point for 350,000 Oregonians. So as you talk around your tables and your networks, and folks share their desire to get this vaccine, that is wonderful, and keep trying. Appointments fill up really, really quick. They become open sporadically based on how many allocations we receive each week. And then, we have a portion of folks that schedule a vaccine and then don't show up. So then that opens up slots in the coming days. So it changes all the time. We just keep asking people to be patient. And how do you actually get an appointment? The primary way is to go to this website, covidvaccine.oregon.gov. There is what I call the chat bot. It's a tool that you can use. It screens to determine your eligibility. And if you are eligible, then it will pop up with the scheduler where you can click the date and the time available to get your vaccination. Right now, the vast majority of the appointments are, as I said earlier, at the Oregon Convention Center or at the drive-thru at the airport. However, the intent is that all vaccine providers, so let's say you're in the general population and it's summertime, the hope would be that you could fill this out. I could then see, oh, okay, the Walgreens in Milwaukee is the closest one, and they have an appointment tomorrow at 4 p.m. and you can make an appointment. So that's the intent of this tool. But yeah, we're dealing with a scarce resource right now. And so there's a lot to do. And for older adults, there'll be specific phone numbers available that will be promoted heavily early next week for folks that don't have access to the technology to be able to do this. And I went through a lot there, so there's my contact information as well. Folks are welcome to email me. I'm happy to share these slides. If you'd like to share it with others who you think might find this information helpful and interesting. I would just note that I feel like in this work, it changes every day, every hour. So this is, again, a snapshot in time of what we currently know. And that's everything I had formally to share, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Philip, thank you again so much. Supply versus demand. There are news stories throughout talking about the frustrations of people trying to access sites and calling at all hours of days and night, trying to get access and get the vaccine. And you're very clear that it's limited supply, and at some point, supply and demand will become more equal. At what point, The crystal ball that you have in front of you today, at what point should we begin trying, if we meet the criteria of age or job or whatever, at what point should we begin actively trying the website?
I think you should try it anytime. It just feels like right now it's the concert ticket everybody wants. There's no harm in trying. I know I would. If I was eligible, yeah, I absolutely would.
Okay, thank you. Earl, you had a question, and Carolyn, so did you.
Oh, and if I tomorrow go to that website, I can get in line to be contacted. I'm over 80, so.
On February 8th, it will not,
I can tell
until the date someone is eligible, it won't work until that date.
Can't contact him before the 8th, before next Monday. Okay.
Philip, I was wondering, why do we have to have an appointment?
The
limited supply.
There's a limited supply, and then also that's the biggest factor, but I also think it really does help in terms of the operation of these events. Having a really big crowd, you know, and having to manage making sure people are keeping distance, that they have the masks, that they're safe, that we're not, you know, I would hate to have a vaccine event where there would be a COVID risk or folks would be concerned about that. And we're trying our best to factor those precautions in as well.
Okay. And then you said that you had a site in Sandy. Where is that?
It's at the school-based health clinic at the high school.
Okay. The reason I was
asking. Oh, go ahead.
The reason I was asking is because I had a meeting yesterday with the folks at Oral Health. Do you know where that is? In Sandy?
Oral Health?
Oral, H-U-L-L.
Oh, I don't know where that is.
That's in Sandy. It is a park that has activities for blind and low vision folks. And they were saying, oh, you know, this would be a perfect place because we have ability to social distance. We have, it's a huge place. It's 20 some acres, I believe. I think it's 22 acres. They have places where people can wait 15 minutes, do all that kind of stuff. And so I was just wondering if you needed someplace like that, I could give you the phone number for the executive director if you'd like.
Yeah, Carolyn, if you could put that info in the chat for me, that would really help.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And I have one other question. When facilities are used for the events, are they reimbursed? Like the OCC, is it reimbursed? What do they do with that? How do they do that? Who pays for that?
So usually we try to get it in kind, and we do pay for example, when we have the fire agencies help us with a drive-through, we try to make sure that we cover their overtime expenses. So anything unbudgeted, we try to help cover.
Gotcha.
But a lot of this we're asking for in kind because this really is all hands on deck right now.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Katie, any questions?
I don't see any raised hands in the audience right now. I don't see anything posted in chat currently.
Philip, yes, if you could send the slides, that'd be great. And then Mary can send them out to our CPO.
Will do.
That'd be great. Board, any other questions for Philip?
Nope.
Philip, thank you so much for staying up late with us. And I'm sorry, Katie.
Oh, someone raised their hand, but then they took it down, so I didn't get a chance to. Oh, wait, it's back. It's Grover. Let's see if Grover can.
Does he know it's not a Park District question?
As hopefully his sound works this time. Yes, Grover, you're here.
I don't know, you know, technology is moving faster than I can keep up. All right, so yeah, the only thing, it is back to the parks thing, and thank you very much for that, Philip, and thank you, Mary, for your question about applications, and I hope that's clear. You'll hear when once it's clear what the exact steps are. Everyone who applied is still able to continue as an applicant. But the other thing I wanted to speak to is that in addition to that, what I'm really excited about this whole process, and I was thrilled that the Board of County Commissioners did go along with and supported having it be redesigned, refocused to be proportional throughout the entire county. And so we have the opportunity, as you're applying, Mary, and Dave knows because he was just on the task force to help design this system, we actually are looking for ways to have a two-way communication. So even if you don't choose to, and or if you apply and end up not being on, in either case, directly on the district advisory committee, we're looking to help have for lack of better words, a group of friends in each of the 4 sub areas to support parks and be able to communicate and support getting the word out to letting people know about the kinds of things coming up as far as meetings and supporting the representatives, et cetera. So that's the part I want everybody to be able to hear. And I'm sorry it took 3 attempts, but I'm glad I tried one more time. Any questions about what I just said?
We're glad you got into, Grover. Thank you.
Thank you.
Philip, thank you again so much. This was, well, first we had the wildfires, and that took a bit of your time. Now we've got this. This is taking a bit of your time. When do you get a break?
That's a magic question. Well, I was promoted to director in May, so I feel like I'm just really this is really being tested, but I will be positioned well for the rest of my career here at Clackamas County. I have confidence in that.
And you've been with
There's no more major incidents, please. No more. Let's have a break.
Because you've been in public health now for 8 years?
I've been with the county for over 8 years now. Been in public health for 12.
Philip, would it be, so our next meeting's in June. Would it be worthwhile to ask you to come back in June just to give us an update? Do you think the world will have changed between now and June?
A lot will be different.
Okay, then
I'm sure.
Please mark on your calendar June 7th.
Will do.
Okay, and next time we'll have you go first.
Thank you.
You shouldn't have to go last every time. Does anyone else have any questions for Philip?
I don't see any more questions.
Philip, in chat, Carolyn has posted the 2 different things you were asking about.
Yep, I've got it. We've been chatting too privately.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll say thank you to everyone. The speakers we had tonight, the questions that came up tonight, the format tonight came about as a result of your board and the citizens that have provided input to us. So thank you all so much for your input, your ideas, your suggestions. Our next meeting is June 7th. We know that 2 of the speakers are going to be Philip and Chief Anderson. And I think we're looking for a 3rd speaker. I don't think we want to have 4 again. That's a little bit much for a Zoom conversation. Does anyone else have any questions, or Earl, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for putting this together tonight. It was a very good session.
Good. Well, I'm glad you found it worth your time, especially when you're almost 80 years old.
Yeah. On which side?
Well, Katie, and thank you again for your work. Mary?
Yeah, so what I was wondering is, would it be possible to get a link to the recording that we could send out to our constituents so that if they missed it, they could at least go back and watch it if they had nothing else better to do?
We'll download the link and post it onto YouTube, which is what the county uses for sharing videos. And then I will send you the YouTube link. You can put it out on your social media. You can share it however you guys would want, via email. It's a public record, so you can share it however you like.
Okay.
That would be
Is there anything else we typically need to do to wrap up a meeting?
No, I just want to thank everyone for attending, and to be sure to share with your neighbors that this was a very simple and easy way to attend a CPO meeting. We're seeing an uptick in participation using Zoom, so we're hoping that that will also work in your neck of the woods. So we're just really grateful that you took the time to learn this process and to get engaged virtually.
Do you think this is going to be a format that you guys would be willing to continue for the CPOs in the future? Because I mean, I agree. I think this is going to be so much easier for a lot of people if they can master the technology. But
we don't see virtual engagement going away. I think we're going to start seeing some hybrid models and how people want to engage with meetings where folks are, some are in person and some are attending virtually. We're exploring lots of different ways to support that. We are also exploring ways that we can help provide Zoom access to the CPOs and hamlets without having to have county staff constantly involved in your business. I'm happy to do it, but I know that also there's some desire for some autonomy, especially for the CPOs, because you guys talk about land use. There is value to that. So we totally respect that and are trying to find ways to support that. So hang tight, because we are looking for ways to provide you with that access so that you can host your meetings whenever you want and not when I'm available. So, you know, we're working really hard to provide that for you, and also to find the best ways to help virtual engagement continue, because we do see that this is expanding access, which is something that we are continuously working towards. We're seeing new audiences accessing county meetings, which is great, and we're hoping that that will continue.
Well, and I think the recording, being able to have our constituents be able to reference a recording at any time, I don't know how long you keep the recordings up, but is a great resource, because every once in a while you get a person who asks for the meeting minutes, which in my opinion is such a poor reflection of the meeting, the dynamics of the meeting.
Sure.
So, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so very much. With that, I'll say good night. Good luck. Philip, thank you again for staying up with us, and see you all June 7th.
Yes.